Welcome back to your live continuing coverage of InfoComm 2015. This is the Digital Signage Pavilion, your official live coverage of the Digital Signage Pavilion on the Digital Signage stage on BeTerrific. I'm Michael Artsis. Thanks so much for joining us. We're at the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando, Florida, just footsteps from the theme parks, Disney and Universal, but this is where the magic is happening. It's like a theme park in here. There's so much eye candy, so much cool tech and gear. And we're talking about digital signage. Digital signage is an amazing emerging space. It's been emerging for years, but it's really exploding now. We've talked a little bit about virtual reality today and getting more interactivity and all sorts of stuff, and we're meeting a lot of great companies. But I think one of the things that we have to look at is content creation. It's one of the things I heard last year was one of the pinpoints and pain points for digital signage, and that is that I have this great digital signage, but how do we create great, consistent, and easily achievable content? How can I make new content easily and affordably? Well, this gentleman who we're going to meet right now has a product that helps you do that. And it also can double as a great holder for your iPad if you want to use your iPad as a digital signage device. So we're going to talk about those two things and a whole lot more. Please welcome John Goldberg from the Padcaster. He's one of the founders of the Padcaster. And the Padcaster is a device that you put your iPad into, then allows you to put all sorts of accessories on to be able to shoot better. It basically creates a mobile production hub out of your iPad. You can shoot and edit from it. And in addition to that, you can even stream live and do multi-camera now with the Teradek Live to Air app. There are a lot of great apps you can use to create the content, and I think that that's something that's amazing. John, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks again for having me, Mike.
My good friend, John Goldberg. So you came from the VC world, venture capital, and you're doing this, and you know, you have created something that has really caught the attention of a lot of people. It was in a couple of Apple commercials. But what's great about this is that it is a device that helps you create content.
And an easy one and a cheap one and a good one.
Yeah, I mean, you could say cheap, but I think it's inexpensive because cheap makes me think of something that's not well made. And a lot of times you say you can have three things, but you can only have two of them. You can have fast, cheap, or good. You can only have two of them. In this case, I think you've created fast, inexpensive, and good. The good is the quality of the content you can produce and the quality of the product that you have. The inexpensive is how much it costs to do the whole process and the efficiency of it, and the fast is that it happens fast in the productivity. So this product is the Padcaster Mini that you have right here.
Correct.
You've got a small tabletop tripod connected, but you can connect anything to it. We use them a lot, by the way, the Padcasters, for lots of different things, including we can pop out that rubber and put a regular camera in there and use it as a camera cage.
That's right.
Yeah, you don't have to do it now, it's okay. But so tell me about the Padcaster, what you've got it rigged up with there.
So this is our core bundle. So you know, we started out the company. You know, it really didn't have the microphone, it didn't have the lens. It gave you basically a frame and the bracket. You know, and ultimately, really where the whole company is migrating to as this entire business evolves is we need a solution. You know, whether it's a solution for creating content or digital signage, we need a solution that has a microphone and a lens as well. Because really people aren't looking to buy just the frame because that really isn't the solution. That's a piece of the product. The solution is all this. And we're trying to give people different solutions for different applications, whether it's live streaming, creating content, digital signage. There's a different bundle and a different solution for each of those. So,
so this started out as, wow, I could create content. Basically, your partner Josh, a really great guy, he's a filmmaker and he owns Manhattan Edit Workshop, which is a post-production school to teach people how to create content in the post-production side. And he was on a shoot one day and whipped out his iPad because the rig was taking too long to build. Is that how it goes?
I mean, to make a long story short, yeah, he was out on a shoot and he needed to get something, you know, spur of the moment. He didn't have his camera, you know, the big cameras that he's using for the shoot, and he had an iPad. This was going back 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
He pulled out his iPad, took the shot, figuring, you know, I'll do what I can in the editing studio and fix it up later, but I need to get this right now. And you know, 6 months later, when he took the footage back and started editing it, he couldn't tell the difference between what he shot with the iPad and what he shot, you know, with the big cameras that he was using. And he said, you know, the only thing that it's missing stability, meaning the ability to take the iPad and being able to mount it onto a tripod, a monopod, a pistol grip, whatever you want, get better audio, and get better visual capture video through a lens. So if I could make a rig that would be able to do all those things, I think we have something here. Now this was 3 years ago, so just fast forward the tape to where we are now. The product has evolved a lot into what you see today. It comes in all the sizes, you know, the original all the way up through the Mini and the Air 2, and we're coming out with different things on the product roadmap for the phone, for other, you know, tablets and other sizes and other accessories. And, you know, really that's what it does, is it you know, it gives you the ability to do all that.
Very cool. It's a great product. Like I said, we use it all the time, and it's driven a lot by a lot of these different apps. And so there are a lot of them that allow you to shoot really high quality video. We're going to have a guy on next who allows you to shoot and edit as you're going. His app is VisiWig, yep. And so it's a good tie-in. VisiWig is a great app for this. Allows you to shoot really high quality. You can even go 4K with VisiWig 4K, and you can even come out live if you want to go into a live video switcher. But then there's the BeTerrific app, which is live to air, which is a great app. Talk about how you can even use this for digital signage, because you can lock the iPad in this device, and you've got all these different points to mount it.
Right. So forgetting the microphone and the lens,
forgetting
and the bracket,
content creation,
forgetting content creation, you can. It's a very versatile device. So you can actually, this pops out. Mm-hmm. It's just an insert, and then it becomes a frame.
And you can mount
and
cameras,
you can
and
mount cameras and that.
Or if you want
to keep it in for digital signage, we have a locking device. So you could put your pad in here. It locks, so it's secure, and then you can mount it to any. You know, we're at this big convention, InfoComm, great, and you can mount it to any booth in any format that you want. It locks the device in there, so it's secure. And you could use that as digital signage in many different ways. So it's just another option that has nothing to do with content creation or video capture.
Talk about the importance of content creation and being able to do it efficiently, because we look at all this beautiful digital signage out here, and I think the biggest problem is, great, I've put this in, I've integrated it, I came up with my initial content, I've paid guys a ton of money to create that content for me, but now people get bored after a month or 3 weeks, and now I've got to refresh it, or I've got to create a new video about my company, or a new this or a new that. And that's really expensive. I don't know that I can spend 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 grand a month creating all sorts of new stuff.
Well, so content is king, and as all this evolves, quality content will be even more important. And to the extent that you're not creating quality content, meaning professional quality, it's going to be hard to keep an audience. And using something like this, where you can get the right audio, where you can get the right capture, where it's stable, where you can get lighting, where you won't run out of power, all these things that that are important when creating good video, good content. This allows you to do that. And we like to say, listen, the iPad is a great device. It has great software, it has great optics, it has all sorts of things. All this does is, take that, and it's sort of the glue around utilizing all of those features. We make all the things that Apple does better. And that's important for creating good content.
If you could just turn the Padcaster around so people could see the insert, so if they're going to stick their iPad, that's an iPad mini one, so if you could stick your iPad mini in there you go. And that's what it looks like, and you've got the holes for the lenses, and then you can put the lens attachments on, and you can get lenses from you guys.
The lens comes off, it's
or you can put in any 58 or 72 millimeter lens in there with the step down ring. And we talk about, and we used at NAB actually, doing the Michael Arts' show. We did the big BeTerrific show, but then when we did the, came offset in their booth to use live to air to do the Michael Arts' show, so that our audience had the Michael Arts' show every day, we did it on the live to air app, and we used the lenses from Century Optics, and those were amazing and look stunning. So I mean, they're very expensive, but you can put any 58 or 72 millimeter millimeter lens on it, and I like that it's modular and you can keep building on it.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very flexible. It gives you all sorts of options. You don't have to use this microphone. You can use whatever microphone you want. You can be wireless.
Tell the story about IBC. You and I ran around. We're in a booth of a major manufacturer, Sony, with a big camera announcement. I chose to use the Padcaster and an iPad because I needed to turn some content around really quickly and get it out, because you can literally shoot, edit, and upload content on this. It's your mobile production hub. And you can shoot, edit, and upload on it. And you want to use it to edit and upload because it gives you, you're not looking down at the iPad or finding a desk. You're putting it on the tripod, you're doing it all like this. Yeah. And so shoot, edit, and upload like that.
And it cuts the production time down.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
By 90+%.
So tell everybody about our experience in the Sony booth. They were really gracious, really nice people. But they unleashed a new camera called the FS7 at the time that was unreal. And so we go up there to shoot some stuff that we needed to shoot. You were at IBC. It was your first trip, and you helped me out a little. But this is a great story of how the Padcaster really works and how people were enamored by it.
Well, I had been at the company for all of about a day, so I didn't even know how to hold the thing. But you needed somebody. You had to go up and shoot some video for Sony.
And I could have shot it myself. With the Padcaster, but it's easier with two people, with somebody looking at it. So okay.
So you took me up there. I didn't know what I was doing. A cliche. I was really a fish out of water, but I carried this thing up, and you got the Sony rep, and you had the camera, and you said, all right, just stand here and start filming. Meanwhile, we didn't have a booth at IBC. We were Padcaster.
Yeah.
We were nomads running around, and we get to Sony, and Sony has a booth the size of a football field, with everything. And we get to the camera that you were interviewing the person about, and we start filming with the Padcaster. Well, all of a sudden 10 people came over, 20 people came over. By the time we were 3/4 of the way through the interview, there must have been 75 people crowded around this thing. The Sony, somebody from Sony comes up and says, you could really shoot with one of our cameras. Said, no, we'll keep using the Padcaster. And it became, it was a bit uncomfortable because more people were interested in what we were using to shoot the video of the Sony camera than the actual Sony camera.
And people started taking pictures, and it was nuts, and it was crazy. And the funny thing was, Sony said to us, we had to do 2 interviews. After the first one, they said, would you mind using our gear because you're in our booth? We'll lend you something, and we'll give you the memory card. And I said, well, we have to edit and upload this, and I got to get back to the set to do the live broadcast. And they said, please. And I said, but there's no way for us to do all this as efficiently and fast with your gear. I love your gear. I love Sony, and they've really made a huge comeback, especially with the FS7 and the A7S. And they were so gracious. And one thing you did that was so smart, because I'm doing the middle of the interview, and these people are starting to ask you questions about the Padcaster and stuff. You said, you know what, guys, I appreciate this. I'll answer any question you want. When the interview's over, we can go outside Sony's booth and have any conversation you want, but I can't do this in Sony's booth. It's not fair to them. And it was just such a classy move. And it was a really crazy experience. It was very interesting.
Well, hockey players are classy guys.
Yes, and you are a hockey player. Big Philadelphia Flyers fan?
I am, sadly.
Yeah. Well, listen, my Rangers didn't do much better this year, did they?
At least you made the playoffs.
We made the playoffs.
And everybody
we went
makes
far.
the playoffs.
All right, and you come from the VC world, so you got involved with Padcaster. But talk about what it's like to have to be out there trying to find funding as a young company and going after funding. There are a lot of people out there, a lot of our viewers have great ideas. Even a lot of these companies, some of them are very innovative and small, and they're trying to find their way. What do people need to know when they're looking for funding? When they meet a guy like you, and you're sitting on the other side of the table, and you're a VC?
One, you have to have, every VC will tell you, the team is the most important thing. So it doesn't matter what your idea is, what your product is, what your technology is, you better have a quality team. A team is the most important thing, especially in a seed or early stage company. The second thing is you want to have something disruptive. What is it that you're doing? What's the vision? What's the mission? Is it disruptive? Is it disrupting a market, an industry, whatever it is? And then how big is the market? VCs go after big ideas, big markets that you can capture some piece of market share of that. So it has to be a large market with disruptive technology, with a good team, and you have to execute. Now, the thing that has changed in the VC landscape is there's Kickstarter. Angel groups are very prevalent now. You can seed your company and use Kickstarter and use these angel groups as proving grounds to get up and running and going, and VCs will come in a little bit later after you've proved it. There are customers, there is a market, there is a need, you've worked out all the kinks in the supply chain, because there's a lot that goes into these products.
So you're not usually ready to go to a VC with an idea. You have to go to angel investors or maybe crowdfunding like Kickstarter to get your idea going, or friends and family.
I mean,
you get your idea, you kind of work it out in the lab, you incubate it a little, you get it to the next level, and then you say, okay, now we're ready to go. We've got the team in place, we got the basically everything's working, it's ready to go. We need this, this, and this to get to the next level or to scale. You can prove that it's scalable. And then you can go to a VC. Is that correct?
For the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, there are some times that an idea does get funded, but for the most part, I would say as a rule of thumb, it's much harder to go to a VC with just an idea. Have some of these things flushed out.
At least a proof of concept.
Yeah, have a proof of concept.
What do you think of crowdfunding and what it's doing to the VC and angel landscape, and what it's doing for companies? Do you like the idea of crowdfunding?
I think it's democratizing finance and VC to some extent. I'm concerned more with not the companies that are successful in getting crowdfunding. I'm concerned with the investors, the investing public who has access to the deals. What happens, is that, venture capital is a business. There's a reason VCs do this as a profession, get paid a lot of money, and invest in a lot of deals. No matter how much due diligence and research you do and knowledge you have about companies and industries, most of them don't work. Most of them fail, right? So if you're an investor doing crowdfunding and thinking, oh, I really like this idea, I'm going to put X thousands of dollars or whatever. You really have to spread it out over a portfolio of many different ideas, because the chance that you're going to hit on that one is very, very hard.
Well, and that's what VCs do. They do 10 deals hoping one hits, right, and that one more than pays for the other 9. Yeah. But the other thing about it is they're sophisticated investors, and usually people don't realize, and this might be a good piece of information, is that VCs usually work in one vertical. They know it cold. They don't really vary outside of it. So if they're working in energy, they're not necessarily going to invest in a tech company or a consumer electronics company or something else. And so when you go to a VC, you have to make sure it's the right fit to even meet with them. But I think you're right, especially as crowdfunding is becoming, in the beginning it was, we'll say a t-shirt and a product, and they weren't allowed to actually invest in the company. Now you can invest in the company, and yeah, you should be careful.
You've got to be very careful. So I think it's good, but you have to be careful. There's some very reputable crowdfunding sites out there.
Now, Padcaster has done a Kickstarter that was successful in the very beginning. What about the idea of doing a Kickstarter or something at this point? Is it a little bit scary because you have to actually have some dollars, not about putting the prototype together, not about actually making a video or creating the Kickstarter, but it's about promoting the Kickstarter so that people know it exists, because the crowdfunding space is getting so crowded. How do you stand out from the crowd? You have to hire a PR team. There are PR teams dedicated to just doing that now.
Right, I mean, so I would say if you're a company that wants to go on Kickstarter and promote your product, I told somebody yesterday, I call it garbage in, garbage out. You'll do as well with Kickstarter if you put time into it. If you think you're just going to put a product up there and it's going to get funded and you're not going to have to pay attention to it and close your eyes and 30 days later you'll have $30,000, most of the time that does not work. You have to put a lot of PR, a lot of marketing, videos, effort every single day. The more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it, stipulating that you have a product that's capturing somebody's interest. But if you do, there's a lot of work that goes into it. Now, it's good work because it should be successful, but as long as you're willing to work, it's not something you just slap up there and magically money appears 30 days later. It's not the case.
You know what's interesting is I think that there are a lot of great resources to people today too. There's a lot of great videos and training videos, and you can watch seminars from all sorts of people, VCs and everything, and people seem to share information really widely open, and I like that.
Unlike 10 years ago or 15, when I first got into the venture business, it was very closed. VCs didn't even give out their emails. It was very, very hard to penetrate a venture firm, to get to a partner, to get your business plan read. Now everything's different. Everything's open. All the information that you want is out there you mentioned it before. Do the due diligence. Find the right VC who invests in what you're doing, in your product, in your industry, in your technology. Find the partner within that firm that's actually concentrating on those things. Find other companies that partner has invested in that are like your company that you can maybe get an introduction through. It's all the information is out there to approach an investor, and if you're just doing it blindly, you're already shooting in the dark. There's enough information out there to get to these people and do it the right way.
What about the way Tightrope Media Systems started their company, TRMS.com? They told this great story. They took a $5,000 loan from one of the founders' mothers. They started it. They sold their first job. They learned how to build their business themselves, how to code themselves. They took out books from the library, read up, started coding, made their first system, sold it. Took the money they sold from that, put it back into the business, and grew it that way. Every time they did it, every time they sold the job, they put money back into the business, and now they have a huge presence here and a great system. It's a do-it-yourself digital signage architecture. So you, as a client, buy their software and build your own system in a templated form, and then can build on that and refresh it. But they built literally from a $5,000 loan, never took a dime from any other investors, and but kept putting money back in. Especially when you're talking about that's not something at this point that is hugely scalable and can explode to a $50 or $100 million or $500 million or $1 billion company.
Right, so it's, I think that you can always go two ways. You can go the venture route and get investors, or you can bootstrap it and self-finance it. A lot of it depends on what you're doing. A lot of it depends on time to market and scalability and those type of things. However, some people will short circuit that process and immediately get venture funding because they think they need venture funding. And I tell people all the time, getting venture funding should be a financing event, not a PR event. If you need the money to grow for a specific reason, to scale, then go raise money. If you don't have the money to bootstrap it, or you don't have access to capital, then go get the money to grow your company if you need it. But don't do it as a PR event. Too many companies go out and raise hundreds of millions of dollars, as a PR event when they don't need that. And it's really, like I said, venture should be a financing event.
What about IPOs? It seems like IPOs are coming back. It seems like the roller coaster goes, these are really hot, let's do it. Then they're really low, then let's do it again. And it seems like if you talk to investors, they say, we love IPOs because it gives us a liquidity event and an ability to get out, but a lot of times they become penny stocks that don't trade, and they're these bad deals everybody runs from. What do you think of that, and is it making a comeback? It was very hot in the late 90s, and it seemed like every .com had an IPO, and then it went away for a while after the burst, and now it seems like it's back.
Well, in actuality, the IPO market hasn't, it's fairly dry. For the number of portfolio companies that VCs have, it's fairly dry. The IPO market has not really come back from the .com era, and that's probably a good thing, but on the other hand, the pendulum has swung too far the other way. There's not enough IPOs. Most venture companies actually get a liquidity event through an M&A, through a merger and acquisition from a bigger company. And that's also a liquidity event, and perhaps a better one than an IPO. The IPOs that you're seeing now are, they're big companies that have been, for the most part, have been around for a while. They're profitable. They have hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. They were well financed, and the investment banks can pick and choose now which ones they want to take to market. Most companies go the M&A route. The other thing that has happened is these companies, it's much longer to get to an M&A or an IPO because there's so much money from hedge funds and mutual funds in addition to VCs that actually pour money into these companies to the tune of billions of dollars. Extends, you don't need an IPO or an M&A if you're raising $1 billion,
Sure.
And that capital is available now.
Very, very interesting stuff. Thanks for sharing it with us. I know our viewers appreciate it because they learn when they have these ideas and they want to bring them to market, and a lot of them are the people we'll see here next year at InfoComm displaying as their companies grow or as their ideas come to market, so that's very exciting. John, you're from the Padcaster, thepadcaster.com. Are you having fun there? Are you enjoying it?
I'm having a great
You left
time.
the VC world to do this. Are you having a good time?
I'm on the other side of the table now, and it's great to go build a company. And instead of for 20 years telling people how to go do it, now I'm doing it. So, you know, I don't know. They say the grass is always greener on the other side. But I'm having a blast.
And you guys are doing great. You're exploding. Things are really taking off for you guys. You got a lot of big announcements soon. I know you've got some new products in the pipeline that'll be more universal too for not only iOS devices but also Android and other devices as well. That's exciting. You've got the Mini here. You've got the bigger one for the regular iPad, and it's just awesome. The Padcaster.com. And what's great about it is it helps you create content for digital signage and a whole lot more, whether that be content you record and edit or content you stream live. It works for pretty much all of that, and it can be used as a great digital signage display device where you can lock the iPad in and mount from any angle, as well as also using it for a camera cage for regular DSLR and regular video cameras. Pretty impressive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. That's John Goldberg from the Padcaster. Oh, Digital Phil wanted to know real quick. He's in the Slack chat. Digital Phil wanted to know real quick, by the way. He had a question. He wanted to know if you're related to Bradley Cooper. I'm sorry, Digital Phil, that I almost missed that.
Well, if you really want a real answer, I take it as a big compliment that I have been mistaken for Bradley Cooper. He's from Philadelphia and ironically went to my high school.
Wow.
So,
and you've been mistaken for him before?
And by a teacher from our high school. So at a reunion, somebody came up to me and said, Bradley, Bradley, Bradley. I didn't answer.
Yeah.
And then they realized I wasn't Bradley. So
that's very
I
funny.
guess so, you know.
We actually have an audience here, which you know, and we have a question from the audience, which we can get to. So, and the audience, we have an ability to have the audience ask questions. So, sir, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. And you have a question for John?
I do. Before you launched this, did you have other products that you had launched, and there was just the first one out the gate, or did you kind of evolve into launching products? Were there other ideas that you had that you put out there, or is this kind of the first one you did?
Yeah. So, good question. Thanks. Thanks for the question. So, my partner, Josh Apter, created the product about 3 years ago. You know, there's a story behind it, but he created, you know, about 3 years ago, he came up with the idea, created something like this. It's evolved into what you see today. And he started with this, and it's expanded through that. But, you know, he launched it about 3 years ago. You know, and now we have, I think, 8 or 9 different products in the same family. Yeah, so this, like I said, it'll be our 3rd year, and that's that. And I came in about a year ago to run the business side of it. As the business started to grow, you know, Josh is, you know, on the creative side and, you know, design side, and I'm, you know, more on the business side now.
Toes that happen a lot, where the guy who creates the idea or comes up with the idea or is the creator, maybe the artist, they don't necessarily know the business side? I heard somebody the other day say the best advice he could give young entrepreneurs is whatever you, or people who are creatives, whatever you do in school, whatever your major is, make sure you take business classes so you just have some business knowledge. But is that the case a lot of times with the creatives or the people who founded the company, where it gets to a certain level and they just don't know business enough and somebody else has to come in?
It's very, very rare that you will find a founder of anything that ends up being the CEO at the end of the, you know, if there's a liquidity event or, you know, as the company grows, because they're different skill sets. There's a difference between managing and running a business and starting a business. Mm-hmm. And it's very rare to find that person who not only can invent it, design it, start it, and then run it. They're two totally different skill sets, totally different disciplines. So it's very common that the founder steps aside, becomes the chairman, and, you know, brings in a CEO or a president to run the business and to grow the business. Because typically an entrepreneur, a founder, you know, that they're not interested in running a business. Running a business is different than founding a business and starting a company. So they're different things.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I did. I was just curious if that was sort of your first foray into, you saw it in innovation and an idea, and then you captured, or were there other ideas, or are you looking at other ideas now with other creative people?
Oh, yeah, for me specifically.
Yes.
So for me specifically, this is I've been in the venture business for almost 20 years before this. So I looked at and funded dozens, if not hundreds of companies. This is my first time going from the venture side of the table to the operational side and running a company and running a business and building it. So, and I'm not looking at anything else. I do this,
Must have been something pretty special when you saw it. I'm very familiar with the Padcaster product, but I was kind of curious of your insight.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think the opportunity for this, which is why I joined, I just think is every day something. I find out something else, a different application, a different solution. There's markets that are growing, and this is part of it. So I see it as a really big opportunity we're really at the beginning of the wave. And it spans from the mom and pop shooting a birthday party all the way up, to CNN or ABC or ES. So it's not just for the do-it-yourselfer. It's professionals all the way down. So I think when you have something like that, that's effective. It's
got a very wide market, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very inspiring.
Thank you. If anybody else has questions, you can just jump up to that microphone. We'll get to you. Thank you very much. And so, yeah, I mean, you have affiliates. I probably should have mentioned this. You have TV affiliates using it, TV stations, professional broadcasters using this all over the world, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
It's something we don't even know about. But, yeah, I mean, all of them have it. Some of them use it more than others. But, yeah, I mean, all the big affiliates all the way down to independent guys and independent international news, places that you never heard of, all the way to the three-letter companies and the four-letter companies that
the networks.
The networks. So I mean, it's all over the place.
I bet it's been interesting learning this business too from this side of it.
I love it. I love it. I learn something new. Not only every day, every hour, right. Somebody else comes. There's something else about it.
Especially in the video space and the digital signage space and all that. Thank you so much for coming on. John Goldberg, the Padcaster, thepadcaster.com. It's a great device. Thank you for asking your question. You can ask questions during any of these at any time. Just jump up to the microphone. And of course, you can in our Slack chat as well. All you have to do is join by going to BeTerrific.com/Slack and join the conversation. You are the Terrifics, and you can join our other Terrifics in there. Send us your name and your email, and we will send you an invitation so you can join. We'll keep the conversation going 24 hours a day as we check in, and you can converse with our other Terrifics. But when we're on air, we'll get your questions and comments on air, some of them, and some of them we'll just go through the chat. All right, we've got something special for you. You, the Terrifics, know this. You know the band Knock. They are an amazing band, and they have a new debut single that has never been heard by the world before, but we're going to debut it right here, right now for you. It's called Here For You, and it is unbelievable. They're an EDM band that does acoustic sets that are amazing. We've had them on the show before. You guys love them. So you're going to look at some footage of InfoComm right now while listening to Knock's newest single. It is called Here For You, and there's something special about this. This song is for charity, so all the proceeds, when you look it up on iTunes and SoundCloud and all those other places, will go to charity, and it's a great cause. If you want to find out more about it, you can go to facebook.com/knockmusic, NOHC, and you can also go to BeTerrific.com and check out their prior interviews. We put all our archives up there, also on our YouTube page, youtube.com/BeTerrificTV. All right, so that's what's going to be in the break now, and we're going to take you to break, and then we'll be back with a whole lot more here live for your official live continuing coverage of the digital signage Pavilion here on the digital signage space and stage at InfoComm 2015 on BeTerrific. I'm Michael Artsis. You're the Terrifics. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this.